Let's roll, baby. Welcome in. It is the Ringer Sunday pregame, getting you ready for week 2 with the wise guys. Can't wait for this week 2 card across the board in the NFL. Let's welcome in the fellas, shall we? We have Cousin Sal, Joe House, who's giving off first date spiffy vibes right about now. We got our main man, Raheem Palmer. And Cousin Sal, I survived a few days in South Florida. Once again, it was like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and Lucy pulling it away with my Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, prayers for my guy Tua. But the Buffalo Bills, once again, my friend, undervalued.
I feel so bad for you, JJ. We joke around a lot on text, but I really did feel for you. You're Charlie Brown, who had to use up all his frequent flyer miles to go out there and see your team get whooped and your quarterback go down. And not to mention, they clearly lost your luggage, too, in the process because you're wearing a T-shirt for the pregame show. But if you want an emotional hedge, JJ, the Bills to win a division, even odds. Come on. That should be a lot higher. I'm sorry. It's going to happen.
Well, I agree with you on that. First of all, the T-shirt is cool.
Oh.
It's vintage. It's badass. That's what we do around here, Sal. It's called having style. Maybe we will teach you a thing or two about that.
I don't think so. Okay.
As the show goes along. You don't get to see my kicks, too, that are hidden behind this beautiful studio desk. Raheem, I know you were fired up for week 2. Trying to figure out that overreaction of the week. Always something we're trying to figure out on East Coast bias. You have a good feel for it going into this Sunday?
Yes, most definitely. I definitely have a good feel for it. There's a lot of overreaction within the market. You're seeing a ton of games where lines have moved off the look-ahead number. You look at the Houston Texans, for instance. They were 3.5-point favorites. That's all the way up to 6.5. You look at the Jaguars. They were 1-point favorites. That's up to 3. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They were minus 3.5. That's all the way up to about 6.5. It's probably going to close 7. So you really got to pick your spots this week, and we'll see what happens.
Now, House, you're picking up right where you left off a year ago. You were the king of the dog for man's best bet. After your Steelers win in week 1, are we feeling confident about where we're going with our dog? Are you going to be barking once again?
This is hard. Week 1 is always a little bit easier because you can see how the market's adjusted to the storylines, the narratives. Look at Atlanta. Look at the schedule that they have. Kirk Cousins, look at all the firepower. And boom, we pop that balloon right away. This week is harder, but there are some opportunities. To Dream's point, the market is still trying to process what we saw out of week 1. And little preview, I think we're still maybe a little bit over aggressive with the New York Jets.
Ooh, we shall see. Well, fellas, we have a lot coming up. Ringer Sunday pregame with the wise guys for this week, too. We'll have a couple of guest picks from our guys Brian Barrett, Craig Horlback, who apparently is at a Sunday wedding. Don't get me started. Sunday wedding, that is as bad a party foul as you can have. That's going to be coming your way. We will have our rat lines. We will have man's best bet. We'll get a sense for maybe what the Podfather is thinking for this particular football Sunday. But let's get right to it. It's time to wisen up. And I'm going to start the proceedings today, guys, because guess what? I was the only one to win the wisen up wager. I heard House and Simmons on $1 million picks when I'm flying back from my funeral and down in South Florida. And Simmons is like, did anybody win their wisen up wager? Well, guess what, Billy Boy? I did. And I'm going to pick up in week 2 right where we started in week 1. I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals, and I know all of the trends are pointing to Sean McVay and the dominance that the Los Angeles Rams have had over the Arizona Cardinals. Well, I look at a Ram team that is completely depleted. You are not going to have Puka Nacua. There are issues on the offensive line. And when you look at a lot of these trends are factoring in Ram dominance because of Aaron Donald and what that Ram defense in years past was able to do to Kyler Murray. Well, newsflash, Aaron Donald right now is sipping Mai Tais and mojitos on vacation in retirement. He is not concerned about what the Arizona Cardinals are going to be doing in week 2. This just reeks of the obvious public, let's ride the trend type of play. I'm not going to do it. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals, who should have won outright in Buffalo last week. Let's make it 2-0 for the wise wager, boys. Cardinals laying the point, and we go from there. Now, Cousin Sal, I feel for you because you should have won your wise wager a week ago. The Tennessee Titans up 17-0, dominating Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. You deserve better. That is our first real bad beat of the 2024 NFL calendar. And rumor has it, your wise wager, it's getting down in the mud. It's getting down and dirty. What do we got?
Well, yes. First of all, we're counting that as a loss against me. That Tennessee, that Will Levis gift 6, that nonsense. Now that's got to be. If that's not a win, I'm walking off the show before we even hang my 2023 banner. But fine, however you want to do it. House, you're not going to like this. JJ's right. Down and dirty with the team who hasn't won in years. The Washington Commanders. That's my wisest wager right there. Listen. It starts for them in 2 hours. I know it didn't look great against Tampa Bay, although I think in the second half, they picked up a little momentum. Jaden Daniels got used to what it's like playing on Sunday, showed promise, 2 rushing touchdowns against Tampa Bay. Daniel Jones showed promise too. He promised to continue to let everyone down. That's what he's doing. Everybody's seen the stat, 3 pick sixes, 2 actual touchdowns for his team since his return. Dable's team didn't exactly thrive away from home last year, 3-6 against a number. I even like what Eckler and Brian Robinson are doing out of the backfield, catching passes. They went for over 100 yards, House, combined. So Jaden Daniels has got it. He's got the team behind him. This is his homecoming. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever. Maybe it's just raw sewage leaking from the rafters out there in Washington, but I'm drinking something. I'm taking your Commanders, House. Big 33-16 final over the G-Boys.
Wow. Sal rolling with the rookie quarterback. Sal rolling against the trend. That is a theme here for the wise wagers right out of the chute because all the trends pointed to McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. A whole lot of those trends will be pointing to Daniel Jones and the Giants, and we might get to that maybe a little bit later on for man's best bet. But House, you're going to stick in the NFC East, rumor has it, for your week 2 wise wager. What would it be?
Yeah, so the challenge, as Dream outlined at the top of this show, is to try and figure out, as these lines got inflated between week 1 and week 2 from the look-aheads, which ones were warranted. And one that caught my attention is this Philadelphia Eagles laying 6. To me, I'm going to say it this way, only 6 to the Atlanta Falcons. And the reason that I like this play for Philadelphia is because there is still no evidence that Kirk Cousins can move. This was the handicap last week when I hit my man's best bet underdog play on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kirk Cousins played the entirety of the game from shotgun and from pistol. He can't move, go under center. The Atlanta Falcons ran 0 play action passes last week. 0, because he can't move. There was only one team in the entire NFL that didn't attempt a single pass of 20 yards or more downfield. That was the Atlanta Falcons. So this is an instance where the Philadelphia Eagles on the look ahead was 3. It jumped all the way up to 6 or 6.5. I don't know what Atlanta is trying to prove by playing Kirk Cousins in the situation where he is clearly compromised. Their pass protection was abominable against Pittsburgh, and the strength of this Philadelphia Eagles team on the defensive line is straight up the middle. So this is the thing, Jalen Carter coming right up the middle. My guy Jordan Davis, I don't know what the Atlanta Falcons are going to do scheme-wise when you have a quarterback that can't move. So I'm kind of fine with laying the points here. Anything less than a touchdown, I love it. So it's my wise wager, JJ.
Listen, I got no problem waiting until Monday Night House if, of course, you're going to go and give me a winner. Now, Raheem, good news, buddy. Nowhere to go but up after what happened in week 1. And for what it's worth, I kind of like your Panthers pick. I would have sided with your Panthers pick, but that was as ugly, as rotten as it gets. And if you're going to lose, that's the way to lose. Don't lose the way Sal did. Go get your doors blown off and you got nothing to worry about for 3.5 hours. But I'm feeling a bounce back. I'm sniffing a bounce back. What's in store for week 2?
Yeah, they definitely dropped me with a first-round knockout yesterday, but I'm here to bounce back this week. We're going to go with the New England Patriots team total under 17.5. We know that this is a bad offensive line. If you look back to last year, they've gone under this total in 12 out of their last 16 games. And now they have to take on the Seattle Seahawks and a Mike McDonald defense, which is much stronger than what we saw last week from the Cincinnati Bengals. They really missed the absence of DJ Reader, who left in free agency. You look at Ramondre Stevenson. This is a guy who ran for 120 yards on 4.8 yards per attempt, and 118 came after contact. 118. So that tells you that the Cincinnati Bengals, they really struggled to tackle. Now, you look at the Seattle Seahawks defense. Last week, they took on the Denver Broncos. They had 2 safeties and an interception, which set up the Broncos in Seattle territory. So they basically gave up 7 free points. 7 out of the 20 points were free points, pretty much. So they really only gave up 13 points. Now you get to take on the Patriots with a bad offensive line, and they have the 3rd highest run-pass ratio, 53% to 47%. So they're going to be running the ball a lot, and that's the strength of the Seattle team. They're top 10 in EPA per play and success rate against the run. So I like the under there on the team total. I actually like the under for the full game as well, but I'm going to isolate the Patriots team total under 17.5.
I like it, Raheem. I like it. Sal.
Well, no, I like this bet a lot, and I can't wait for the 28-minute break so I could put it in. But shouldn't they change this to offensive points? I mean, is there anything worse than you have under 17.5 and the defense scores or a punt gets blocked or something? Wouldn't that be a nice option for FanDuel on the menu there, Raheem?
I'm going to contact FanDuel because me and FanDuel, we got a great relationship. They send me betting splits. They even let me create my own boost sometimes. I know they let you do the same with Bill as well. So we got to contact FanDuel, exert our influence, and put this bet in and have them change things up, because this is a great idea, Sal.
That's right. Thank you.
I like it. It's called an additional tab. We can use some more additional tabs in our life. You know what else we can use? Some winning same-game parlays. Sal, I'm going to start with you, and you're going with the game that I had involved with my wise wager. Hopefully we both can hit, so hit me on how we're going to nail this same-game parlay.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, JJ, and I'm afraid, well, maybe it'll work out, but this is what scares me about taking a side in this. I feel like you went against the trends, and the line still moved in the team that's on the short end of the trend anyway. Arizona probably shouldn't be favored. The Dolphins, I'm sorry to bring it back up, maybe shouldn't have gone from 1.5 to 2.5 after we learned of how prolific Josh Allen is on Thursdays, how the Dolphins struggle and everything. I feel like the same trend here with Sean McVay just ripping the Cardinals 13-2 in his last 15 against this team. So here's my four-legger. Rams plus 4.5. Like I said, McVay owns this squad. Should really try to sell this squad, actually, at the top. Cardinals 29th scoring defense through week 1. Didn't show me much, especially pass rush-wise. See how easy that is to say pass rush? I did it. Rams plus 4.5. They're going to score against this defense. Over 41.5, adjusted for the same reasons. Cooper Kupp had 14 receptions last week. I think he's going to get 9. They're going to have to work it to him. Nakua is out 4 to 5 weeks, they're saying. So I think he gets a lot of easy ones, probably 7 receptions by halftime. And Kyren Williams, anytime touchdown. He scored in 7 of his last 8 regular season games. I like this one a lot. I tell you if it doesn't, I didn't. Plus 452 it pays.
It's a decent payout. I'm with you on the Cooper Kupp resurgence. Hey, go hit your parlay. Let the Cardinals win the game by 3. And everybody is happy as far as Rams-Cardinals is concerned for week 2. Well, guys, you know this. We are not only on FanDuel TV, we are a big part of what's going on here at YouTube TV, where you will be getting ready for the NFL Sunday Ticket. And, of course, our friends at FanDuel, they got you covered every which way. New customers bet $5. They get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all customers who bet $5 get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Watch every out-of-market Sunday afternoon game with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube, or get even more NFL when you bundle with YouTube TV to get local and national games on 100 plus live TV channels. Download and visit the FanDuel TV app today. Download and visit the FanDuel app today. Terms and embargoes apply. Guys, it's time to get made. Nothing like smelling out a good rat. And I saw a monstrous one when I got out of LaGuardia Airport, and it was a reminder to me that I am back in the Big Apple and back in a big way. Raheem, when you think about the rat line that really stands out in week 2, what's smelling ultra fishy, extra stinky, and is rather monstrous from a rat standpoint?
I'm glad you came to me first because this is the biggest rat of them all. I mean, this is a New York rat. You know, everybody's seen the video of the New York rat in the subway dragging the piece of pizza down the flight of steps. Well, this is what it is right here. You look at the Chargers laying 4.5 to the Panthers. How can you bet this game at all? Now, I understand there's some sharp money who took the Carolina Panthers at +6, just number grabbing. But you look at this game and look, teams that lose by 35 points and are underdogs by 4 or more points the following week are 50-18-2 against the spread the last 20 years. That's 73% of the time you're going to win taking the Panthers in this game. So all the sharps, all the professionals, all the math guys are going to tell you, you have to grab the points in this spot. But like I said before, Bryce Young is terrible. He's going to be working at the SEC network in a couple of years. This offense is bad. This defense is bad. You cannot bet on this Panthers team. But at the same time, you just look at the Chargers. They're being overvalued. The look-ahead line on this game was -3. It went all the way up to 6. I'm staying away from this one.
So I totally understand that, Raheem. Now, for what it's worth, I think the Chargers will find a way to win because of their head coach. But you look at the way that line is kind of moving against them here in the last 24 to 48 hours. It is rather telling, Sal. So I see where Raheem's
You know what
going
I
with
got to
that
add too? You look at the Chargers last week. Like, they didn't do anything to prove that they should be laying this big number. You look at how they won that game. I mean, Gardner Minshew basically threw the game away. They had multiple fumbles, multiple interceptions, and then you had the greatest surrender, the greatest punt that we've seen in the last 30, 40 years. I mean, they're down 6 and they punt from Chargers territory. So, like, the Chargers haven't proved anything that they should be laying a number on the road.
Totally get it, Raheem. Cowardly Lion, best way to describe Antonio Pierce's coaching in week 1 against Harbaugh and the Chargers. House, when you're looking to smell out a rat, what stood out to you in week 2?
Well, it's funny that we're talking about Antonio Pierce as a cowardly lion because my recommendation to everybody this week is to stay away from the Baltimore Ravens laying 8.5 to Antonio Pierce and the Vegas Raiders. My issue with this is that this line, the look ahead was 7, and it's been all over the place this week. It got all the way up to 10 at some books for a minute, and then sharp people jumped right in and pulled it all the way back down. So it's sitting at 8.5, but I think some of that is a function of people thinking that this Baltimore defense is the same defense as last year. And from what we saw against the Chiefs, now you always have to apply that grain of salt with the Chiefs because the Chiefs is a one-of-one unique Andy Reid planning for a week 1, offensive game plan. But that the Ravens defense looks like it's taken a step back. Now, look, I am not advocating that anybody go do anything with Gardner Minshew and the Raiders other than stay away. But I will remind everybody that Gardner Minshew was in this position 1 year ago with the Indianapolis Colts. The line was 9, and the Colts went in there and won outright. So be careful, everybody.
And I get it, House. Listen, I was dumb enough to have Cincinnati as my knockout pick in week 1, and I think Baltimore profiles in many ways as the most obvious knockout pick for those of you still involved as we get ready for week 2. Sal, what's your rat line?
Well, first of all, I should say, we go over these lines with Simmons on Sunday nights, and these days I feel like 12 out of 16 games are rat lines. I think it's because I've been taken to the woodshed so many times. So anytime I get excited about something, it can't be the right way. I like both these rat lines that were presented by Raheem and House. Help me out with this, though, JJ. I feel like this is a mile-high rat hanging above us. Pittsburgh, Denver, only 2.5. It won't move off the 2.5. The Steelers are on the road, but they proved, Lucky Joe House, that they can win without scoring a touchdown. 6 field goals, Justin Fields, who doesn't turn the ball over and can run and help himself out. And then Bo Nix proved that despite his 309 college starts, is still rusty back there. And now he's up against perhaps the best front 7 in the game. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward. Patrick Queen didn't even have a good game last week. I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And so why is it 2.5? Because the air is thinner and the Steelers are traveling? I don't like this at all. This is a rat. Something I will throw out there. This hit last week. I remember you guys, you may remember I was good with it last year. The Steelers, Steel City Swing, take the opponent to win the first half and the Steelers to win the game. That pays 7-1. It hit 5 times last year. It hit last week, and I forgot to mention it. Make sure you have a little on that. I know.
Sal won't get fooled again. The Steel City Swing, I like the Cousin Sal special.
Okay.
I think it really is in many ways. And that game just has ugly written all over it between Bo Nix and Justin Fields and the Steelers, who can win games without scoring touchdowns. Expect some grotesque football in Denver at 425. Well, guys, I think we're missing a rat line here. Cleveland and Jacksonville. Did anybody watch Cleveland last week with Deshaun Watson playing quarterback? This line is sitting there at 3. Jacksonville was about to go up 24-7 on my Miami Dolphins before Travis Etienne fumbled the football. And yet the odds makers are saying, go right ahead. Play the 3. I'm knocking statues over. It doesn't matter. You know what? This stinks of a rat. This reeks of a rat. That's why the Statue of Liberty found their way into the garbage can right about now. Nobody wants to bet Deshaun Watson. Nobody feels good about betting Deshaun Watson. Yet the line still remains at 3. Raheem, I know the Chargers and the Panthers profiles as a rat. Come on, Jacksonville, Cleveland's right there.
It definitely is a rat. I mean, this is Henry Hill. This is Sammy the Bull. I mean, how can you trust Deshaun Watson at this point in time? And then, like I said before, when you look at the look-ahead line on this game, the Jaguars were laying 1. Now we're all the way up to 3. I mean, that is a clear overreaction. So I don't know how anybody can bet this game. And then more importantly, when you look at the betting splits right now on FanDuel Sportsbook, 62% of patrons are betting the Jaguars based on what you saw last week. So I would probably stay away from this one as well.
Not surprised, Raheem. Not surprised. Now, let's get back on the SGP wagon. You got one for us, and I'm surprised you're going with this game for an SGP, but please explain your logic.
Okay, so it's 2024 right now. But this game might set us back to 1983, 1970s with the quarterback play. It's 3 yards and a cloud of dust. I like to call this one my establish the run same game parlay of the week, because that's what we're doing with this parlay. We're going to go with Josh Jacobs over 64.5 rushing yards. We know Malik Willis stinks. They're going to have to shorten the game. So they're going to have to run the ball. So Josh Jacobs over 64.5 rushing yards. We're going to go with his backup, Emmanuel Wilson, over 14.5 rushing yards. I mean, this guy had 4 carries for 46 yards against the Eagles. I expect them to get some more carries this week against the Colts. And when you look at the Colts, they are 28th in defensive run EPA per play and 29th in rushing success rate. Joe Mixon had 159 yards rushing last week. So I expect the Packers to have some success on the ground. Now, let's go to the other side of the ball. Jonathan Taylor, over 80.5 rushing yards. We saw what Saquon Barkley did to this same Packers run defense. We know the Colts, they like to run the ball. Stopping Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor together, it's very tough. So we're going to go over his rushing yards, and we're also going to take his anytime touchdown. So 11, this parlay pays 11.5 to 1 to establish the run. So let's just look for a lot of rushing in this game right now and cash this one.
Well, listen, we love an 11-1 payout. They might need the leather helmets, though, with this sort of game plan that you're kind of detailing, Raheem. So we are bringing it back, and we are bringing it back old school in a big way. Now, fans that want to bring it back, New England Patriot fans, I know they're 1-0, but they have a crummy season in store. Brian Barrett hosts Off the Pike, our podcast that profiles the Boston sports teams. So, no surprise. He's got a Boston, New England SGP for us. Guest pick. Let's hear it.
Home opener for the Pats. They take on the Seahawks. They're, of course, looking to get to 2-0. Unlike your Dolphins, JJ. Ouch. Okay, so I'm fired up for this Patriots game, and I'm all over Demario Douglas in this one. I'm going with Douglas as my best bet, over 3.5 receptions. And guys, I'm actually going to parlay that with Douglas over half a receiving yard in the first quarter. That brings that bet up to plus 159. Douglas is going to be involved heavily in this game, and if that's the case, why not take over half a receiving yard in the first quarter? Seems like a no-brainer. So a couple of reasons for this. Last week, it was all about the run game for the Patriots. They used an extra offensive lineman 18 times. That was triple what anybody else in the entire NFL used. Mike McDonald, that Seahawks defense, they're going to be well prepared. He's obviously a really good defensive mind. So the Patriots are going to have to throw the ball for more than 121 yards in this one. Jacoby Brissett last week was actually pressured at the highest rate in the NFL. How do you counter that? The quick passing game. Bring in Demario Douglas. Douglas last season, he averaged 7 yards after the catch per reception. That was number 4 among receivers in the entire NFL. He was incredible after the catch, so you want to feed Demario Douglas. If the Patriots are going to be able to move the ball against that Seattle defense, you got to involve Douglas in the short passing game. Okay, for my TD parlay, guys, this is for plus 439. I love Breece Hall to score against the Titans. He has scored in 4 consecutive games. Let's go to Isaiah Pacheco as the Bengals try to slow down the Chiefs' offense. I don't see it happening after what I saw from the Bengals last week. I love Pacheco to get into the end zone. He scored in 7 of his last 8 games. And last but not least, the Green Bay Packers defense, Jeff Hafley, it looked awful last week against Philadelphia. I like Jonathan Taylor in the end zone. He's scored in his last 7 games.
Thanks for the picks, Brian. Of course, the shot at the Miami Dolphins was completely unnecessary. I had to sit through enough pain on Thursday. House, out of those 2 parlays, which one you like more?
I think I like the Patriots better because I am worried about the fact that we all love Jonathan Taylor to get a touchdown in this game against the Packers. But more so, I'm not so sure that I'm on board with the idea of Breece Hall. And I'll have the opportunity to wax a little bit poetic about that Titans-Jets matchup. But we're not asking for very much out of Demario Douglas. Probably the only receiver on New England that I could name. I'm glad that Brian named him first, so I wasn't put to the test, but that's the one I would ride with.
Sal, quickly, which one of those 2 you like more?
Well, I don't know. I think I like them both the same, which is not very much, but I'll say this. If you are betting Demario Douglas to have over a half a receiving yard in the first quarter of an NFL game, you're either doing something very right or very wrong. Raheem, maybe there are too many options out there. Maybe everything I said earlier shouldn't count for FanDuel.
Raheem, a man who right now has made a lot of bets and is rather speechless by what we just saw from our buddy Brian Barrett. We got a lot more coming your way. We got Man's Best Bet. We got the family meal. We're rocking. We're rolling. It's the Ringer Sunday pregame. YouTube TV, FanDuel TV. We're coming right back.
All right, on Sunday, I texted Sean Fantasy and I said, win or lose on Monday night, you have to come on and talk about the Jets. So Robert Saleh, I looked this up. He's now 18-34 career. There's 201 coaches who have coached 50-plus games, and he's 183rd in winning percentage now. He's in the bottom 20.
I was wondering about that, too, if he would be canned. It's a tricky one because I think the Pats are going to be a little better than people think. The Jets are also playing 3 games in 11 days. I have no idea why the NFL they have a 40-year-old quarterback and they schedule them to play 3 games in 11 days. They also have a lot of nationally televised games on the schedule this year. And if they're not good, again, that's going to seem very strange. One of my big takeaways from the game, and this is something we've talked about a lot over the last 2 years, there was no Jets pass rush whatsoever last night, but Brock Purdy was kind of slinging it.
He was. Yeah, he looked good. They even dropped a couple plays. Well, you know, the famous stat of the Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010, right? Yep. So that's like winter 2010. I realized we first met and exchanged emails in 2011, and we've worked together since 2012. Maybe I'm the problem.
Time to quit. Should I put in my notice this morning?
No, maybe we just should have a more distant relationship. Larry David quit the Jets.
Did he,
I don't
though?
know if he's claiming he quit, but I also think he watched the game yesterday, so I don't know. We'll get a TBD. Maybe he'll come on the pod.
Welcome back to the Ringer Sunday pregame on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV. And FanDuel has got you covered. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all customers who bet $5 get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Watch every out-of-market Sunday afternoon game with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube, or get even more NFL when you bundle with YouTube TV to get local and national games on 100+ live TV channels. Download and visit the FanDuel app today. Terms and embargoes apply. So we have a lot more coming your way. Anthony DeBundo is going to join us in the last half hour of the show. But this is what's coming up on FanDuel TV this week. You got Through the Ringer, Tate Frazier and company. You got Cousin Sal, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Cousin Sal's all over. It's got Cousin Sal's winning weekends at Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And then you have the three amigos, East Coast bias on Thursday. Joe House, Raheem Palmer, and this guy, JJ John Jastremski. All that's coming your way on FanDuel TV. So let's get right to another guest pick guy. It didn't seem like we were in love with guest pick number 1 from Brian Barrett. Let's hear guest pick number 2.
All right, guys, Craig Horlbeck from the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, checking in from the road. Still going to get my picks in. I like Dallas -6 at home against the Saints. Last week, Deshaun Watson took more quarterback hits from the Dallas defense than any quarterback has taken since 2006. I think this game's going to be a blowout. Dallas is always starting hot. They did last year. I think they're going to start hot this year. I think you could take an alternate line on this, 9.5, 10.5. I love Dallas. Sal, to you.
Is it to me? Well, first of all, is he coming from a wedding? Is that what he said, JJ?
Well, it's the Sunday wedding party foul. I mean, if it's a Saturday wedding, I'll sign off on it. If it's a Sunday wedding, you dock $100 during an NFL Sunday. Sorry. Or I'm just going to respond no.
No, I feel that this wedding must be in communist China. I can't even imagine going up against a great slate as the NFL provides every week. But yeah, as far as the Cowboys go, I think Raheem's with me. Like this game, it's right around 6.5. And I loved it. I loved all the trends. Cowboys at home, Dak at home. Look what they do. The Saints played, basically what they did with the Panthers is they went in the backyard and played horse against their 5-year-old. So, of course, they're going to have a nice result. And now they go to Jerry World, and it's going to be a different story. But I feel like everybody's on the Cowboys now. I'm not going to call it a rat, but I'm a little suspicious of it. I don't feel like, what do you feel like, Raheem, here? We take care of business at home usually, but a little scared on this one.
I feel like everybody's late to the party. The time to play the Cowboys was last week against the Browns, who had a beat-up offensive line. You look at all offseason, Sharp Money took the Dallas Cowboys under their win total, under 10.5. Sharp Money was betting on the Cleveland Browns. That line opened Cowboys -1.5. It closed Cowboys +2.5. So you saw all of that last week. And now the Cowboys, they blow up a bad Browns team, and now all of a sudden everybody wants to jump on the Cowboys bandwagon. I'm not buying it. And when you look at the Saints, I think there's real potential for this team to be better than what everybody thinks. They replaced Pete Carmichael, their offensive coordinator, and they brought in Clint Kubiak. You look at the synergy between Clint Kubiak and Derek Carr. Last week, they were first in pre-snap motion and third in play action. They did none of this last year. They were almost like at the bottom of the barrel in terms of those stats last year. And we know in the modern NFL, if you run pre-snap motion and play action, your offense will be more efficient. Well, they were more efficient last week. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is just the Carolina Panthers. I think some of that carries over this week. And I think the Saints could be a little bit more frisky than what people think.
See, I think this is one of the more telling week 2 games, because if you get a big performance out of the New Orleans Saints, Raheem, I think you're onto something here. But I'm sorry, I need to see it from this head coach who absolutely stinks. I need to see it from washed up Derek Carr. I'm sorry, the Carolina Panthers and what they did in week 1 is not enough. If I were betting this game, and it is an honorable mention for me, I'd be on the Dallas Cowboys.
JJ,
now, House, yes, Al.
I'm sorry. House is suspiciously quiet about this wedding situation and when you should have a wedding and when you shouldn't have. When were you married, House?
Not on a Sunday. And my fear, the reason I try to stay quiet is because, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Getting married on a Sunday is a recipe for not a long marriage. That I'll just leave it at that. I don't feel like I should weigh in here. But I will say I love Dallas too. I think Craig's onto it. I understand you Cowboys guys coming at that game from the perspective. I got this close to Dallas being my wisest wager this week because the look-ahead line was right there, 5.5 and 6, and the number stayed right there. It's a right number. It's a fair number. I don't think the Saints' offensive line is ready for the speed of that Dallas defensive front, and I think that's going to be the difference because Derek Carr under duress is very different from Derek Carr in a clean pocket.
The one thing I will add is that the Saints are missing Marshawn Lattimore. But the problem I have with the Cowboys is who are their weapons outside of CD Lamb? We know they don't have a run game. Jake Ferguson is injured. So you're expecting this team to cover margin. And going into the year, we already knew that they took a step back on offense. So that's one of my biggest concerns as well.
So, Raheem, you'd be betting Saints in this game if you had to play it.
If I had to, I would absolutely take the Saints. And you look at FanDuel Sportsbook right now, most of the bets are on the Cowboys. I think 80% of the bets are on the Cowboys. So
I'm less concerned about this game and more interested in House's wedding. And someone who's very close to us claims he's still pissed off at the fact that House had a wedding on a Saturday, week 2 NFL football, forcing everyone to scramble on a Sunday to get out of there. But anyway,
see, that's not as bad. Book the hotel, stay on Sunday, and the hell with your Monday plans, Sal. I'm okay with that. I got my guys back on that one.
What the hell's wrong with you people? Go ahead.
A lot. Don't get me started. That's a story for a much different day. House, you didn't want to get involved with the Dallas game. You do have an SGP for us on a game that we've already mentioned. What's that SGP looking like?
Yeah, so it's the Chargers at Carolina, and Dream outlined all the good reasons to not mess with the spread in this game, and I do think it's one where you have to have courage looking at this Carolina situation and think about them being competitive in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to do anything with the spread, but I do like a same-game parlay that fits a script of what I think Coach Harbaugh, we call him the old Harbaugh because I don't remember what his name is versus his younger brother. I'll be messing that up all season long. But we have the Chargers -2.5, the first half spread. They win the first half. I mean, we're borrowing from the Cousin Sal's playbook here. The Podfather and I on $1 Million Picks, we did Chargers first half, Chargers win. But Chargers -2.5 to cover the first half. J.K. Dobbins, this is the script for the Chargers. They just run. They put Dobbins in a whole bunch of situations. Over 75.5 rush and receiving yards. I think he gets the rush yards all by himself. He doesn't need the pass receptions as well. Justin Herbert. Under 203.5. Chargers to be throwing the ball all over the yard. And then the Chargers total points over 22.5. I'm only asking the Chargers to get to 17 points on offense because I think that Bryce Young is going to give them a nice donation. He has a donation in store for them. They'll get over that 22.5 by way of a short field that Bryce Young gives them. So that's it. It's a plus 657, that four-legger right there.
It's a juicy payout, and it maybe contradicts the rat of the week, according to our guy, Raheem Palmer. Well, guys, we gave you our wisest wagers. We gave you our rat lines of the week. Let's get barking. It's time for Man's Best Bet. Now, guys, I'm starting the proceedings on this one. It's in my neck of the woods. The New York kid is back in town, and I am going to be barking against Joe House's Washington Commanders. I like the New York Football Giants, who looked as rotten and as vile as any team in the sport outside of the Carolina Panthers week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Giants are going to have what you call a classic bounce-back game against a team that they have owned for the better part of 20 years, whether it was Eli Manning, now you've seen it with Daniel Jones. The Giants just played brilliantly against the Commanders. Daniel Jones can't beat anybody else within the NFC East, but look at his numbers when he plays Washington and when he plays Dallas and Philadelphia. I think you see a big day for Malik Neighbors. I think the Giant defense will get to Mr. Daniels, and that Washington defense stinks. We saw what Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay was able to do a week ago. Give me the Giants outright. I went with a big pooch in week 1. I'm going with a small size, Pooch, here in week 2. Giants, if they don't win in week, sorry, Sal, they don't win in week 2, they're going to be lucky to get 4 wins on the schedule. They get it done, and I am mano a mano. Heads up with our guy, Cousin Sal. His wise wager is my man's best bet.
Well,
Raheem.
The good news is, JJ, real quick, one of us is going to win one of our bets, right? Because although Washington could win by 1. That's the result. Everybody, if you could bet Washington by 1 point,
I like that.
Do it, because then we both lose.
Yeah, that's just blatant hate right now.
Yeah,
come on.
Let's will that into existence.
Okay,
let's will that into existence. Just for you. Raheem, man's best bet.
First things first, I gotta say I completely agree with JJ on this one. I'm jealous because I wanted this one for myself. I mean, Daniel Jones 5-1 straight up against the Commanders. Daniel Jones 17-11, 60% against the spread on the road. So this is the perfect spot for them.
Great.
But for me, I'm gonna go with the Denver Broncos money line plus 124. I really hate the spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're playing their second straight road game, and when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, last week they beat up on Kirk Cousins, who was basically a corpse out there. He couldn't move. You look at the fact that the Falcons, they ran pistol or shotgun on 96% of their snaps, and they only passed out of the shotgun and ran under center. So they had a tell. And I think Bo Nix will be much improved in this spot. You look at the fact that he's actually mobile. He can move. So he's going to be able to deliver, quick passes out of Sean Payton's West Coast offense. And then you look at the trends. Early season game in altitude, Denver Broncos 20-4 straight up, 14-6-4 against the spread since 2000. Tomlin, typically, I mean, when you want to back him as an underdog, but you don't want to back him as a road favorite. He's 41-28-1 against the spread as a road dog, and 32-40-2 against the spread as a road favorite. And then look, who wants to back Justin Fields as a favorite? As a road favorite at that, I think at plus 124, you have a greater than 50% chance that the Broncos win in this game. So I'm going to take the dog here.
It's a great spot for Denver. I'm right there with you, Raheem. Tomlin is an underdog. Sign me up. Tomlin is a small road favorite against the Denver team that was spunky for at least 3 quarters against Seattle. I think you're on the right side of that one. Now, House, you're going to my backyard for your man's best bet. We know you are king of the dog, and this one, it's got a juicy price to it. Let's hear.
Yeah, I thought the whole point of this was to try and be aggressive with this thing, try and make some money for all the good people out here. JJ plus 110 on the Giants. The Giants own Washington. Like, congratulations. You might as well be the favorite. But look, here's the thing. I am going with the Tennessee Titans plus 166 at home against the New York Jets. And there's a couple elements to it. In the first place, the Titans are kind of a revelation. They have a good defense. What they did in the offseason with defensive coordinator Denard Wilson and what they've done in this upgrades in the secondary, the Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, Ernest Jones they acquired from the Rams at the last minute. That defense was formidable against the Chicago Bears, who were supposed to be a team with all of these weapons. So I really like the idea of that Tennessee defense going up against what looks like a one-trick pony New York Jet offense. So far, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, we're going to start calling him check down Aaron, because all he likes to do is get the ball in, the short check down kind of plays, and the only guy he's looking for is Garrett Wilson. It is a terrible spot for the Jets coming off of Monday Night Football, going from a West Coast time zone to a Central time zone. There are a bunch of numbers out there, a bunch of trends that show how hard it is to go second straight road game on a short week in a different time zone. And you look at situation for the Jets in particular, their defense was on the field all game long. 41 minutes of that defense against the 49ers just getting beat up because the 49ers just wanted to run. And the weakness now that we've seen in this Jets defense is defending the run. No Bryce Huff, no John Franklin Myers. Hassan Reddick's leverage just keeps going up and up and up and up. You'll notice that in this handicap, the reason I'm taking the Titans It does not include Will Levis in any way, shape, or form. I will not tolerate, and nor will Coach Callahan, Will Levis throwing this game away. He's going to run the ball, and he's going to run it against this tired Jets defense. So let's go ahead and be aggressive with a money line play. Titans plus 166 at home, taking care of business against the Jets.
Well, listen, House, as someone who is in the content business in New York City, having a little Jet panic going into a short Thursday night week against New England, that would help the content department. Sorry, Jet fans. Maybe our buddy is onto something here, getting that juicy price. Now, Sal, you're going with the game for man's best bet that in many ways could be a rat line, or maybe it's even the biggest rat line of the week. Curious to hear where you're going.
Well, first of all, I don't like following House in the man's best bet segment. I mean, he is the king of the dogs. He's actually shedding right now as we speak. We should send a groomer to his attic to take care of that. But I am House. I know I'm a little light on this one. I should just follow your playbook. Whatever you're doing is right with the man's best bet. This is plus 122, taking the Packers over the Colts. It was a little juicier yesterday. It was plus 132. And I don't know that I've ever knowingly bet on Malik Willis before. Maybe someone slipped me a pill at a party. I hope that didn't happen, but I'm doing it this week. And it's basically really because I feel like the dealer is holding a 6. I don't like the Colts as a road team. Joe Mixon tore them up. Joe Mixon, 159 yards rushing. So again, I know Raheem's got those Packer numbers, the running backs up, all on the over. I have to think Josh Jacobs will have similar success in Lambeau. Always a tough place to win, by the way. Richardson, I still don't know. I feel like I saw him on his back foot throw a 65-yard touchdown pass, and I'm still not sure that we got the guy back there that we all think. He had 9 completions last week. So like I said, him coming on the road. And as far as Willis goes, for what it's worth, the receivers all said he had a great practice week. I was surprised that they didn't look to bring anyone in. I mean, we didn't hear, unless I'm reading the wrong Twitter feed, they didn't bring anyone in to compete with him. So it's his team right now. And if he could just Justin Fields this and not turn the ball over twice, I think this is a coin flip game, and I'm getting plus 122. JJ, give me plus 122 on a coin flip. I will say, as I look at our quarterbacks for the underdog picks, Daniel Jones, what do we have? Daniel Jones, Malik Willis, Will Levis, and Bo Nix. My God.
Go get it, baby.
My God.
Go get it. That's what I say. Hey, bad quarterbacks occasionally find a way to win. Yep. That's what we're banking on here in week 2. And we got some breaking news here, guys. Not only do we have Sal going with Malik Willis, the Podfather wanted to chime in, and he has a play for the wise guys here on the Ringer Sunday pregame show involving a Malik Willis bet under 14.5 completions for your guy, Cousin Sal. Is there a game script where Simmons wins and you win in the same sentence?
No, there isn't. No, there's not a script like that ever for the last 20 years where he win, we both win. But I'll say this: I know what he's getting at. So if you're picking against a quarterback, you want to pick his under completions probably versus his under attempts, because they could be behind. It could be his fault, and they could just throw, and you don't have to worry about him. I will say, as we look at these early slates, and these quarterbacks have 44 yards passing at half, I don't mind this pick at all. Under 14.5 completions for the day.
Look, I don't know if Bill's going to win this pick, but Bill wants us to let everybody know that he's still pissed because House got married in Martha's Vineyard in 2008 during a Saturday night Week 2 NFL season, forcing all his guests to miss football the next day and spend hours trying to get out of there. And he's still angry.
Raheem must have been
and he wanted me to personally let you know that he's pissed and he wants a rumble for this.
Wow. And I'm looking at this graphic right now that the Podfather sent our way. This seems like I'm not, a lot of complications. House.
I'm not taking any of this. There's 2 ways to handle this as an adult. In the first place, get your bets in Saturday night. It's not that hard. Get everything in. There was nothing going on the island during the day on Saturday. Get your bets in, or just stay till Monday. It's Martha's
Well, that's the move. You stay till Monday. You enjoy some football in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah,
and then you're totally off the hook. All right, guys, we got a bunch of SGPs that have been thrown out there. I got one more for you. And this game almost found my way to man's best bet, but I didn't have enough stones to take the Bengals outright against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But here's what I am going to do. I'm going to throw together a little four-legger SGP. Bengals will keep it close at plus 9.5. The disgruntled Jamar Chase gets 70-plus receiving yards. Joe Burrow, who stunk last week against the New England Patriots, always seems to play well against Mahomes and the Chiefs. I'll take him for 225-plus yards. And then Isaiah Pacheco, who is one of the toughest runners in the NFL. Give me 60-plus rushing yards for Pacheco. And that pays, guys, a little under 5-1. I'm feeling good about that SGP, and you want to fire that in on FanDuel Sportsbook. Well, guys, the four amigos, the four wise guys, we're ready to draw up our family meal. Let's get right to it. Let's cook it up. Look at us right there. Look how juicy and delightful that family meal is going to be. Raheem, give me something right out of the gate that you are bringing to the party.
I got to shout out my guy, Prop Holiday, for this one. I mean, he's a genius for this one. We're going to go with Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, 6+ receptions. You look at this Detroit Lions defense. I think they leave a lot to be desired. Last week in the slot, they really struggled to defend. And you look at Cooper Kupp. He got 21 targets, 14 receptions for 110 yards last week. And guess who plays in the slot? Chris Godwin. So you look at Chris Godwin, I think he's in for a big day. And more importantly, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. Everybody's in the hospital. Everybody's injured. So in order to keep up, they're going to have to throw the ball. So let's go with Chris Godwin, 6+ receptions.
Ooh, juicy. Well, I'll have something on that Lion-Tampa game a little bit later on for our family meal. But House, what are you bringing to the party?
Yeah, we've covered this already. It's Jonathan Taylor. He's got that Wisconsin connection. He's been talking to all the newspapers this week about how excited he is to get a Lambeau Leap. So we're bringing cheese curds, which are always delicious under any and all circumstances. Taylor's got that connection. Brian Barrett mentioned this. Taylor currently with the league's longest active streak of consecutive games with a touchdown. He's got 7. And we've seen Green Bay being susceptible to running back touchdowns week 1. So Jonathan Taylor, 1 score, Lambeau Leap, and I'm going to eat cheese curds on his behalf.
Ooh, sounds delightful, Chef House. Appreciate it. I'm not even the biggest cheese curd guy, but you know what? When it's coming from Chef House, I feel like he might put a little extra spice and sizzle into the recipe that might get a guy like this convinced. All right, Sal, I know you like cheese curds, but what are you bringing to the meal?
I like it all. Look at me. I mean, for God's sakes, it's a disgrace. But I'm bringing an enchilada to the meal. Nothing better than a good, tightly wound, juicy enchilada with shredded pork in the middle. But, as you guys know, a bad one can give you the runs, and that's what I'm hoping for out of Aaron Jones. Literally, runs of 13 or more carries against San Francisco. 7 straight games he's had 13 or more carries. Averages 18 carries in that stretch of 7 games. Most with another team. I know, I'm not stupid, but the point is he's a workhorse, and he's going to get the work to get us a quarter of the way to cashing this bet. I'm very excited.
Well, I get to bring dessert, and I'm bringing a little receiver key lime pie. Raheem was all over Chris Godwin. I'm looking at Lions star receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who did not have a big-time effort week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams. That is going to be drastically different against the Tampa Bay secondary that is depleted with injuries and I think is ripe for the picking. This, to me, screams of the delightful, juicy, perfect way to cap off a family meal. 80-plus yards, that's it. That's all I need for Mr. St. Brown. Done, and done. He will go over 100-plus yards, but we'll take the 80 just to be safe. And, guys, by the way, this family meal, it's a juicy payout here. Let's take a look at it.
Whoa.
You got St. Brown, you got Aaron Jones, you got Jonathan Taylor, and you got Chris Godwin. Sal, a little under 12-1. Like you said, if we hit like 3 of these for the year, we got everybody making a whole lot of bank.
Let's do it. Let's shoot for 5 or 6. But I like where your head is here, JJ.
Wow, look at you, 5 or 6. I thought you were pessimist, Sal. You're getting really bullish on these family meals.
Talk to me in mid-October. I might have
okay, that's when the pessimism will start to come out. I understand. All right, let's take a look at who's in and who's out for week 2 as far as scratches are concerned. Then one that we need to monitor moving forward is A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that's going to tie into what House has going with his wise wager. might want to have a receiver in store if you have the Eagles or you have A.J. Brown on your fantasy team. Mr. Willis is out for Cleveland. That is a huge problem. That offensive line stinks, and Deshaun Watson is even worse. Kenneth Walker out for the Seattle Seahawks, and we knew this going in. Christian McCaffrey out and is going to miss the next couple of weeks for the San Francisco 49ers, and that's a game we haven't got to yet as far as the Sam Darnold revenge game. Minnesota looked rather impressive. Can they do it again in week 2? All right, guys, let's get to some YouTube comments as our friends on YouTube TV have the opportunity to chime in. Sal, our friends on YouTube TV, they love the Steel City special, the Cousin Sal, steal the win, boom, boom, boom. We got to think of the official name for that bet, by the way. You got to work on that with me.
All right, I will work on it. Yeah, I feel like, House saw it. He won with it, 6 field goals last week. You're not going to get a 17-point first half out of them probably. So this just on its merits has got gold all over it there. 7-1 odds, too. Like I said, you only have to hit a couple times this year.
And you'll like this one, House, from our buddy AJ. Says Raiders outright against Baltimore. Outright? I'm not feeling that frisky.
Me either. I mean, that was my rat line of the game. It's a stay away for me, but I admire the aggressive approach early in the season. This is when prime variability occurs, so good luck.
And you'll appreciate this one, Raheem. This one comes from Tim. Carolina plus 4.5. I will not give up on them.
You have bigger balls than me because I can't do it. Wish you the best.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. What do we think about this one, guys, from Benjamin? Watson, 2 interceptions or more, plus money. Sal?
Wow. I mean, he's good for 1, right? Although he got lucky to throw one last week. It was a tip pass, or unlucky, as I might say. But his body language, and he might have deteriorated, physically as well. I think that's a good one. How much plus money are you getting?
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but 2 interceptions or more, I would say, what do you think, Raheem? At least 2-1?
I don't know what it is, but I hate it. And I can tell you why. When you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're missing their best cover corner, Tyson Campbell. And if you look at how they're defending right now with the defensive coordinator, they play a ton of man. Without their best cover corner, you're taking on Amari Cooper, you're taking on Jerry Jeudy. I actually think Deshaun Watson can have a big day.
Oh, wow. How about that for a parting thought for our friends on FanDuel TV? And we are going to be sticking around on YouTube TV where Anthony DeBundo is going to join us. We're going to unveil what Bill Simmons' 4-box is going to look like for week 2. Ringer Sunday pregame with the wise guys. Sayonara FanDuel TV, YouTube TV. We're coming back in a matter of moments. Stay with us.
Did the Bears defense change your mind at all about the ceiling of that team? Because you and I are both laughing during the summer about that over-under was 8.5. Heavy action on the 8.5. People going nuts about Caleb, them putting together this pass-first 3-receiver offense that as soon as it gets cold is going to make no sense at all. And yet, their defense looked good.
Well, they played Will Levis. I mean, he missed 2 guys. He had a guy wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, the guy's sitting there like he was going to fair catch the ball. It took forever for him to get it to him. That's a touchdown there. Yeah, that guy's wide open. They ran the ball in the Bears defense.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Bears are soft. Tennessee kicked their ass up front.
Okay.
I have a problem. I think the Bears are be good on defense. I mean, they're play smart, all that. But
all right, so you think that was Levis related?
I think everything. Look, Tennessee ran the ball. When you took Levis away from it, and he could hand the ball off, Tennessee's offense was actually better. The guy couldn't even complete a screen half the time.
welcome back to the Ringer Sunday pregame show here on YouTube TV. It's Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, John Jastremski. I did not go in order, obviously, as we are getting you ready for week 2 across the board in the NFL with the Wise Guys. Let's take a look once again at what our Wise wagers were for the week 2 card. And listen, trying to make it 2-0. I'm going against all those trends. I don't want to hear about how much Sean McVay owns the Arizona Cardinals. Give me the Arizona Cardinals laying the 1.5. Sal spitting my man's best bet. Going with Joe House's Washington Commanders laying the 1.5 against the lowly New York Giants. For House, it's the Philadelphia Eagles laying 6 on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. And our buddy Raheem giving us the team total with the New England Patriots under 17.5 points. And Raheem, you know, with that Wise wager, do you think that team total under is a good correlation bet maybe with taking Seattle to go and cover the 3 or the 3.5?
Honestly, no. Like I might have told you yes in other games, but in this particular game, my concern with the Seattle Seahawks is George Fent is missing from the offensive line. Kenneth Walker is one of their top running backs. He's missing. So this could easily be what? A 17-16 game, a 14-13 game. Like, I'm not expecting a lot of points in this game. And I actually like the under as well. So if you see a total at 38.5 for the full game, that makes, 3.5 very valuable if you're taking the dog. So I don't think it's necessarily correlated.
Fascinating. Okay, House, how do we feel now that we're an hour into the show, knowing that Cousin Sal for week 2, after getting totally burned by the Titans in week 1, can't wait to roll with the commies?
I just wish him best of luck. I'm not sure what he saw. I will say this. On offense in the second half, Washington with Jane Daniels did start to move the ball, but so much of it was dependent on that poor young man's legs. And I'm very, very, very concerned. 16 rushing attempts. That's about 8 too many. And for whatever reason, the Giants just don't fear Washington. They love coming down here and beating Washington's butt. So I don't have any way of helping the cuz with this analysis or assessment anyway.
I don't need help, House. This is it. If you have any confidence in your brand new quarterback, this should be the week. You don't have many other opportunities. The Giants come to you don't have Florida State on your schedule. I'm sorry. This has got to be the win. This has got to be where they turn things around.
It better be, but Cliff Kingsbury, he doesn't know that Terry McLaurin's on the team.
Wow, House sounding like a disgruntled Terry McLaurin fantasy owner. I'll give you this though, Sal. I don't agree with your pick, but I like the fact that you had taken a lot of these dopey trends that people want to hammer us with every single week, and you're saying, you know what, throw them in the garbage. I did it with the Cardinals. You're doing it with the commies. I respect that.
Thank you. As someone who follows the trends almost religiously and has almost no money left, I think there's something to be said about that.
Well,
and there should be.
I have a dopey one, of course. When I broke down the Eagles and the Falcons, I missed the obligatory, Kirk Cousins in prime time, 12-19 record, 3-10 straight up on Monday Night Football. You got to do it. You got to mention it. It is Kirk Cousins. But the thing with this handicap, once again, to just try and build this thing up for the Eagles, is you look at all of the reports coming out of Atlanta after that game last week. Their beat reporters are talking about the 3-step drops and how uncomfortable he looks putting any weight on that back foot. The real thing for me is to try and talk FanDuel into setting a prop as to what week are we going to see Michael Penix.
Interesting. Okay. We had some fun a week ago with Eliminator, Knockout, Suicide Picks. If there was somebody to delete, it would have been me after week 1 because I actually took Cincinnati. I went as chalky as it gets, and New England ended up winning the game outright. Now, what we are going to do is, just for the sake of having some fun here on YouTube TV, because I don't want to say goodbye immediately to our knockout, and odds are one of these guys is probably going to be joining me on the couch just because these pools can be ridiculous and weird things happen, and it's just very hard to advance. You can't expect that all 4 of us are going to be around beyond week 5. So, our week 2, I get a mulligan. They're giving me a second chance. The guys are still technically alive here for our knockout. Let's take a look at those picks. Jack, put them up. Who do the guys have? Sal, let's start with you. Who are you going with for a knockout?
Well, first of all, I don't know how you get a pick here. The key word is eliminate in the word eliminator. So
That's
you
right.
are eliminated. So sorry, JJ. Next year, though, different year. But you're right. This is not going to be a long little showcase here. I'm going to go Texans. I know you got stuck with the Bengals last week. I like the Texans over the Bears, but I'm still very, very emotional about that. I can't even say the word. That's how emotional I am about that Bears-Titans game last week. So maybe you don't want to listen to me. The narrative easily could be that Caleb Williams isn't ready for professional football, but they won, so that is not what the narrative is. He still has to go against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson breathing down his neck for 3 hours. I love the Texans. I love them. You know, they don't get showcased on Sunday night too much, so this is a big home game. I don't think C.J. Stroud messes up. He had an answer for everything the Colts threw at him last week. Texans, I think, win easily, 33-9. Give me JJ, the Texans, to advance.
And this line is moving in your favor. And rumor has it, House, that you have a family knockout pick with our buddy cousin Sal.
Yeah, I mean, if Houston loses, Raheem's going to win in week 2 because I'm all over the Texans as well. I just want to say, you know, the way these eliminator pools work, you can get back in, JJ. You just have to buy in. So
yeah. I can do the buyback.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
we're allowing the Ringer buyback. Boom, there's your $100. I'm in.
Just Venmo us $500 each.
Do a Venmo request. Beautiful.
I want a steak from Luger's. I mean that's the buyback.
Well, I'm already owed a steak at Luger's, so I don't know.
It's fine.
Make it 2? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the Texans, and it has everything to do with Caleb Williams. I think that it was not a fluke what we saw, and it's because that Chicago offensive line is not very good. They can't protect the dude, so he's running out. All of his completions are on rollouts or sprints for his life. I love Houston today.
Raheem, your knockout pick is gutsy, but I like it. Let's hear it.
So before I give my knockout pick, I have to clarify that there's some knockout pools out there in Vegas and out there across the country that counts Thanksgiving and Christmas as its own week. So you kind of have to leave those teams available. You're looking at Chicago versus Detroit, Dallas versus the Giants, Miami versus Green Bay, Las Vegas versus the Chiefs versus the Steelers on Christmas. You're looking at the Ravens versus the Texans on Christmas, and then Seattle versus Chicago on Christmas. So, you have to leave something available for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So, otherwise, I would love to take the Texans or the Ravens. But right now, for the sake of this, I'm playing with one arm tied behind my back. I put the difficulty all the way up to all that. That said, I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts. If Malik Willis beats me, so be it. But I'm taking the risk. That's what I'm doing.
Fair enough. Because the boys and our friends here at YouTube TV have allowed me a buyback. I'm getting nice and square and obvious as can be. Once again, Baltimore is not starting off the year 0-2. The Raiders offense is not going into Baltimore and winning the game. Lamar, extra time to prepare. Done, and done. Give me the Ravens. Now, Sal, thank you for joining us. I know you need a little recharge. Yes. I know there's only so many innings that you can throw because you have to get ready for Guess the Line. So
we have a guest coming in. Thank you. We ran out of boxes, so I have to go, and I have 20 extra minutes to gamble, which is actually bad for me. So wish me luck.
Well, I wish you luck. We will see you next Sunday. We'll hear you with Bill Simmons later on tonight for Guess the Lines. We'll have Anthony DeBundo in a matter of moments. But first, Bill Simmons, your $4 on YouTube TV. I'm dying to hear what it's going to be for the 1 o'clock early window. Let's hear it.
Now it's time for a special part of today's episode sponsored by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. My friend, NFL Sunday Ticket, awesome features to help you stay on top of all the action like multi-view. My friend, where you can watch up to 4 games at once or layer on stats and fantasy views to track your favorite teams and players. When you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get access to every game every Sunday. That's the most live NFL games all in one place. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games. Device and content restrictions apply. All right, now that we got that out of the way, YouTube TV has crowned me their CMO, Chief Multi-View Officer, to help pick the top 4 games of the week that you should watch with multi-view. And we have 10 early games this week. That's right. You heard me. 10. So we need multi-view more than ever. Here's what I picked. Tampa, Detroit, we're going to have some offense. I want to see if Tampa is a little bit for real or not really, and Detroit is the best team in the NFC. New Orleans, Dallas. that has the potential to be a Derek Carr. I sucked you in for 1 week, and now things are falling apart. I'm excited for that one. Seattle, New England. Is the New England defense for real? We're about to find out. They're home, too. And then last but not least, Green Bay, Indy. Who's playing quarterback for Green Bay? Is it really going to be Malik Willis, or will it be somebody else? Is Green Bay season about to go south? I think those are the four best. Of course, with the multi-view builder, this year you can even customize which 4 NFL games you want to watch. So you don't even have to listen to me. You can just do your own. Just log in, select Build a Multi-View, and pick out the 4 games you want to watch. Thanks again to our friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. Don't miss a minute of the action. Watch every game every Sunday when you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. You can sign up today at youtube.com/BS. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games. Excludes digital-only games. Device and content restrictions apply.
Thanks, Billy. And I understand why you would want Detroit and Tampa playoff rematch. I like it. I understand why you'd want New Orleans, Dallas. Interesting game. Brady on the call. All fair. And I'll even allow the Patriots. They're your team. How do you not have Jets Titans as we welcome in Anthony DeBundo, who is the new gambling extraordinaire over at the Ringer, doing all sorts of stuff. He was doing tennis and golf and baseball, and now he's dialed in on the NFL season. DeBundo, you got to have Jets Titans as a part of that 4-box. Come on now.
Doesn't make mine, actually. Mainly because I have no interest in wagering on the game. Really uncertain if the Monday night game said more about the Jets being that mediocre or if San Francisco is just the same juggernaut as always. But the Colts are in my box. I mean, I feel like
you guys are nuts. You want to watch Malik Willis? Are you guys insane?
It's been the talk of gambling all week. What to do with this Colts-Packers game? I feel like it's the game that everybody's talking about. Everybody's got a strong opinion on whether you're a sharp or a square taking the Colts -2.5.
I get it. And I know you guys might be invested in DeBundo. You're probably the wrong guy to reference on this because you are an Indianapolis Colts fan. So I apologize for being as combative as I was right out of the gate. I do not have a wager on Colts and Packers. It will not be a part of the Jastremski 4-box. You don't have to worry about that. But DeBundo, let's get to some winners. We gave out our wise wagers. I have the Cardinals. House has the Eagles, and he's not going to have A.J. Brown. That news just broke a few moments ago. Raheem went with a team total in the Seattle-New England game. You also have a play in the Seattle-New England game. What would that be?
I'm going to take New England +3.5, -115 at home. I mean, Seattle's offense got away with it last week because they played a Denver offense that couldn't move the ball, lowest success rate in week 1. Bo Nix, perfect spot for Seattle at home. They get the rookie who can't throw down the field in his first start. But I kind of think they're a little overvalued. And in a low total game, like Raheem mentioned, 38.5, that hook is super valuable. There are so many outcomes where Seattle wins this game by 3 that I actually like New England +3.5. And I think last week, the biggest takeaway was probably Bengals panic. Joe Burrow can't hold a water bottle. Their defense can't stop anything. But I actually thought New England held up much better in the lines, offensively and defensively, than most of us anticipated. I think that could be potentially real. And when you throw in the Seattle offensive injuries with Walker and with Fant down to their 3rd string right tackle, their right side of their offensive line basically caved in on multiple occasions last week, and it cost them points with safeties. So I have real concerns about Seattle getting margin here on the road in this spot, first road game for McDonald. As much as I love the Seattle defense and do think it'll take a step forward, Jacoby Brissett is the perfect guy to back as like a dog three or more because he's not going to make mistakes. He doesn't throw picks. He keeps you in the game, and I think this game's close enough that 3.5 is good.
House, could you imagine all the talk we did on East Coast bias about the Patriots being the worst team in the league, the Patriots and their win total being an under? If we're sitting here on Thursday, they're playing the Jets. You like the Titans as man's best bet? The Jets are 0-2 and the Patriots. Could you imagine if that's the script that we're previewing on Thursday next week, dude?
Well, it is imaginable because that offensive line for New England doesn't seem to be as bad as we all kind of speculated. And in fact, New England is going up against a team that probably has a worse offensive line. I mean, the variability that surrounds this game because of how banged up that Seattle offensive line is, and the fact that they're coming from, they couldn't be traveling any further from Seattle to New England. I don't know. I do love and respect the Seattle defense. I do think Seattle has just enough to win this, but I think AD is on the right spot here, getting the hook with the 3.5.
Well, Raheem, we know you have a team total in this game. Would you endorse that pick from our guy, DeBundo?
Yeah, I definitely like the pick. I think, you're getting the hook. That's so valuable. And you have to understand that games land on 3 about 15% of the time. So it's very likely that you get a Seattle win by 3, a New England win by 3, and just it's such a low total. Like I said before, that, I think this is the way to play it.
And remember, a little travel element as well with Seattle flying all the way to the East Coast, playing that dreaded 1 p.m. kickoff. Now, DeBundo, you're new to the Ringer Sunday pregame with the Wise Guys. We give out a rat line every week, a game that just stinks to the high heavens, seems a little too good to be true. You got a chance to look at the board. I gave you the definition of what we use as a stinky, big, fat New York rat. What's your rat line for week 2?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chargers Panthers. I do think everybody wants to bet the Chargers, and I get it, right? Oh, it's, Jim Harbaugh, and look at how good the Chargers were last week against Vegas, and now all they have to do is beat the worst team in the NFL, and everybody's mocking Bryce Young, and I get it. But here's the thing, and that should scare everybody. Teams that lose by 30 plus in the NFL, they come back the next week. In the last 20 years, they cover 73% of the time. So everybody wants to bet against the Panthers. You're not exactly like reinventing the wheel, coming on and saying, all right, I like the Chargers, Panthers bad. The market knows that. And you've actually seen a lot of money in the last couple days come in on Carolina. This line was as high as 6.5. Now it's getting bet down. Now, granted, we've seen this before, right? You only have to go back 1 week to when a lot of people bet the Carolina line down and looked pretty stupid about 30 minutes into the game when it was over. But I still think that I can't give up my Carolina 11-1 division ticket yet. Joe House is laughing at me. I know.
Oh, come on, DeBundo. You can take that and light it on fire.
We're only one
Just
game
like
out of
I can
first.
light my bet on the Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East on fire, you can light that one on fire too. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, we'll see. We'll check back in a couple weeks.
Wow. So you still believe Carolina can salvage this season after what we saw in week 1? I find that fascinating.
Well, I think everybody in the whole division might lose this week. Like we're nearing like
crazy at all.
Tampa Bay Saints are all both 6-point plus underdogs. Atlanta, limping into Philly Monday night. I think this division, 7-8 wins might be enough. I don't think they're going to get there. No, obviously they're 20-1 now, but just giving up on a team after week 1 seems crazy to me.
No, I get it, but it was that bad in week 1.
It was
Raheem,
that bad.
It was. You were referencing Bryce Young in the SEC network about a half hour ago. I have to throw that on record for DeBundo,
Yeah. And then you look at the fact that they lost their best defender. I think he's out for the year, right? Yeah. So it's just, and you look at the moves that they made moves this offseason to improve the offense. The offense didn't improve, but they also took a step back on defense. So, like, if Bryce Young is just not a serviceable NFL quarterback, I just don't know where you go from here. And at some point, we need to be betting on when Bryce Young is getting benched because this doesn't look good at all.
Now, House, you love a good old-fashioned square tease. Would you feel comfortable and confident, forget about the spread, where it does feel a little fishy and a little ratty, taking the Chargers, the Harbaugh effect, saying, hey, they'll find a way? Would you feel good about that?
No, because you don't get any value whatsoever. You never tease through the zero. The maths beats you over the head.
Well, you're right about the tease.
Punches you in the face.
Let me rephrase that then, House. I'm sorry. Moneyline parlay to Chargers.
Sure. Yes, of course.
Different story. I forgot about teasing through the zero. I screwed that up.
No, you're fine. We're trying to.
We've been on TV for an hour and a half, so that can happen from time to time here, where my moneyline parlays and my teases are thrown a little out of whack. DeBundo, gut feel, the Panthers win the game outright?
Probably not. No. I'm not going to get crazy here. But
okay,
it feels like after week 2, there's always going to be like 2 or 3 dogs that really surprise people after looking horrendous in week 1. And there's a lot of candidates that fit it. And there will be a couple of them. And if you know who they are, give me a call. Like, let's talk. But I don't know who they are at this point.
I have a question for you guys. So on FanDuel Sportsbook right now, they have winless specials. Last remaining winning team, the Carolina Panthers are plus 280. The New York Giants are plus 500. The Washington Commanders are plus 650. The Titans are 10-1. The Broncos are 10-1. The Cardinals are 12-1. The Raiders are 13-1. Who are you taking?
Ooh,
I'll go first.
Raiders.
Washington.
Because what's your schedule House, after the Giants?
I'm aware. I think
House,
it's a
what's
bad
the
line.
schedule after the Giants?
I don't know. Bunch of losers.
They're in Cincinnati next week.
Yeah.
Well, that's a loss.
Right.
That's a loss.
I don't know. JJ, you're very confident about the Bengals winning as a favorite after last week.
Hold on a second. I'm not confident the Bengals are going to win. I think they're going to cover the number.
I'm talking about next week. You said they're going to lose to the Bengals.
Oh, they're not losing it. The game's in Cincinnati. They are not losing to the Commanders. Come on. They're going to lose to the Patriots and the Commanders 2 of the first 3 weeks of the year. That'd be another. Speaking of lighting tickets on fire, I'll be lighting my Bengals to win the AFC North ticket on fire if that's the case. I mean, come on now. So I'm not going to get crazy here with Cincinnati yet. DeBundo, before we get to your third pick, I almost gave out Cincinnati outright today against the Chiefs, and then I realized they're playing Patrick Mahomes and they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. But we know this. They've had success at Arrowhead. They played a close AFC title game a few years ago. They won outright in that building, down 21-3. They've beaten Mahomes, at least Burrow has, in the regular season. And the line to me has kind of gotten a little out of whack. Where do you stand on that Cincinnati-Kansas City game? Value with the Bengals or not necessarily?
Yeah, so this is getting near 7. It's 6.5 right now. If it gets to 7, I will be betting the Cincinnati Bengals. Too big of an overreaction to 1 week. Look ahead was 3.5. You can go back and even look at that Cincinnati game. They only had 8 possessions. New England was really effective at shortening the game. A lot of long, methodical drives, running the ball, milking the clock. And Cincinnati had a couple red zone turnovers that probably cost them the win. They didn't deserve to cover or win, but they weren't as bad as people thought. And I think if Kansas City's plan is to run the ball and have long, methodical drives, they'll probably have success. But do you really want that if you're laying almost a touchdown? I don't personally. So I think the Bengals are starting to get very, very cheap here. And at 7, I will be throwing some money on them.
Raheem, should I wait on that game as long as humanly possible? I feel like I should to try to get a 7 in the market, correct?
I don't think you're going to get a 7.
Me neither.
If it goes to 7, the books are going to get middle. You got to understand this line, the look-ahead line was Kansas City -4, and they were taking bets on that all summer long. Like, for large parts of yesterday, this line was 5.5. If you go to 7, you risk it middle by sharp action. You risk it middle by the public as well. So it's definitely not going to 7. You know, right now, I think 6.5, that's the best you're going to do unless you get a cheap buy to 7. You should only really be buying the 7 if you could pay 10 cents or so. You know, there's plenty of books on the math behind this, but I think 6.5 is the best you're going to do.
Fair enough. Okay, DeBundo, 2 plays. You gave us a wise wager. You smelled out a rat. We kind of danced around your third pick, but we're coming back to it. What is the bonus bet you're bringing to the table?
We're going to go to D.C. or Landover, Maryland. Jaden Daniels over 17.5 completions, -120. Look, he had the lowest ADOT in the league. He had the shortest time to throw. It's a very good Giants defensive line. We still think that's the unit that's really successful for the Giants, and a pretty weak secondary. I think they're going to get the ball out of his hands extremely quickly. They also probably want to dial back the running a little bit. I mean, it did get a little too many runs in week 1. So if they're trying to really hone in on him going first read, second read, ball out, quick stuff, which has pretty much been the Cliff Kingsbury offense everywhere he's gone, I think they'll get a lot of completions in this game. So I'll go Jaden Daniels over 17.5 completions.
How's Mr. Commies fan? You like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's exactly the game plan. AD's got it nailed perfectly. Kingsbury out of JD's hands as quickly as possible, and just, behind the line of scrimmage, right at the line of scrimmage, inside of 5 yards. It's why Terry McLaurin didn't get any looks. They finally pulled him in, in the second half last week and pulled him behind the line of scrimmage so we could get a target to the guy. The Washington offense is not ready to try and go down the field in any way, shape, or form yet. It's going to be somebody busting one from the line of scrimmage, some kind of a scheme screen play or something like that. So it's why that it's expensive, -120 for an over on completions for, rookie. But I think it's the right play.
Guys, I always love taking a peek about a half hour before kickoff and seeing how some of these lines can move. They sometimes rock steady throughout the week, And then all of a sudden you get that Sunday steam. Everybody getting off their couch. Maybe they had a rough Saturday night. Maybe they're just having their bagels and their coffee and they're just super wired like I am to go and make more NFL bets. I always love tracking this late line movement. Raheem, I got one for you. San Francisco, line was around 6.5. Now this line has plummeted to 4.5. What do we think of that? What do we make of that?
So I think this line move was correct from a numbers perspective. From a numbers perspective, you just, look at point differential. This line should be San Francisco -4. We know about the trends where a team plays on Monday night, have a short week, have to fly out and play on the road. Typically, that's an advantage towards the home team. However, I think the matchup lends itself to something else. You look at what Brock Purdy did to a Brian Flores defense before he suffered that concussion last year. I mean, he absolutely ate them alive. You look at the fact that Sam Darnold, while he played very well against the Giants, he could find himself in a completely different game state here. How is he going to react if he has to chase points in this matchup? So this is a tough one for me. I do understand the move towards the Minnesota Vikings, but me personally, I have absolutely nothing on this game because the San Francisco 49ers have proven that they're the cream of the crop in this league, and I think this is a good revenge spot for them.
DeBundo, any thought on that line moving the way that it has and any interest in getting involved in that particular game?
Yeah, I find it really interesting that the market took money against both Monday night teams. And I mentioned this earlier, like were the Jets just mediocre? Were the Niners that good? I think, this is the fun of week 2 is you're trying to evaluate, which team we learned more about in the week 1. And the market seems to think that the Jets and the Niners both came in a little hot off of that game that we all watched on primetime. So I think, the Jets offense looked better, but they're facing, I would argue, a better Titans defense than the Niners. But I think the biggest question in this matchup, how much of the Niners' defensive improvement last week was real? Because they looked like they were more prepared to make adjustments, better than the Wilkes defense was. But again, I still think Minnesota's offensive line is really elite, and we're kind of sleeping on it.
Interesting. Very interesting. House, that Jet line has gone to 4. Surprised by that or not really?
No. I mean, it's, the folks are taking a look at that, the matchup and understanding, I think, that there is, they went, what was it before? 3.5?
3.5. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think folks are sort of taking note. It's the New York market always jumping in late and trying to get involved, I think.
I think there's when it comes to this particular game, I think you have different sharp groups on each side. Anthony already spoke about how you had both teams off Monday night getting faded, but then you had another group who came in and who said, you know what, I don't really trust the Titans offense. I think, the Jets offense should improve. So I just think there's just opposition within the market. So, and that's tend to happen on a lot of games this week.
Yeah, true way there.
About 30 seconds here. Do you go nuts when you see a lot of this steam working against you on a Sunday or no?
I place very few NFL wagers on Sundays. A couple props, a couple fun things just to throw around. But I find that I get most of my stuff down before Saturday. I'm trying to beat the market because Sunday it gets really tough. Like, you overreact to little things and injuries and whatnot. Was surprised that Green Bay got bet off 3. I think that was my biggest surprise this morning because like we said all week, Willis this, Willis that. I have Green Bay. I like the matchup for their offense, even with Willis against Gus Bradley. But I was surprised it got even touched 2 at some places before getting back to 2.5. That was the biggest surprise for me this
Anthony,
morning.
Before we say goodbye, our family meal, which pays a little under 12-1. St. Brown, 80-plus receiving yards. Aaron Jones, over 12.5 rushing attempts. Jonathan Taylor, anytime touchdown. Chris Godwin, 6+ receptions. How do we feel about it?
What was the third leg?
Jonathan Taylor, anytime.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I get it, right? He scores every week. I'm not necessarily opposed. I do think Tampa Bay, Detroit, I'm not sure they can make that total high enough, and only the Lions playing at a snail's pace is gonna stop that game from going over because both secondaries stink.
I like the sound of that. St. Brown, Godwin, let's bring it home, and hopefully when we all reunite for Monday's East Coast Bias, we are celebrating a 12-1 hit. So, DeBundo, you will be joining us with some reactions to week 2. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. How's Raheem? I know you guys see me now all week. I'll see you Monday for East Coast Bias. You'll be ready to go, right?
Most definitely will be ready to go. And don't forget, myself and Anthony, we have a brand new show called The Hook. It's on Wednesday, so make sure you tune into that on the Ringer Gambling feed, along with East Coast Bias on Mondays, on Thursdays on FanDuel TV. We got so much great stuff on the Ringer Gambling feed. I think Anthony has a show with our guy, Austin. Tell us about it.
He does. He doesn't have time because we have to sign off. So download that on the Ringer Gambling feed. That's going to do it for us on YouTube TV. House, the bundle, Raheem, JJ signing off. Be good, everybody. Catch those tickets in week 2.